It's time to bring out the BetterWorldian in all of us. Welcome to BetterWorldians Radio with your hosts, Ray, Mary Sue, and Gregory Hansel. BetterWorldians Radio inspires you with the people and ideas that are making the world a better place. You'll hear how small acts can make a big difference every day. Now, here are Ray, Mary Sue, and Gregory.
Hi, welcome to BetterWorldians Radio. BetterWorldians Radio is a weekly podcast whose mission is to uplift and inspire you to make the world a better place. I'm Greg Hansel. BetterWorldians Radio is brought to you by BetterWorldians Foundation and is co-hosted by the family team that created the popular social game on Facebook called A Better World. It rewards players for doing good deeds while helping to raise money and awareness for charities. To date, over 40 million good deeds have been done in A Better World by more than 4 million people in over 100 countries. This week on BetterWorldians Radio, we welcome Polly Dolan, founder of Nurturing Minds in Africa, a nonprofit with the mission to educate Tanzanian girls who are poor, marginalized, and at risk of becoming involved in exploitative forms of child labor. Polly holds a master's degree in international administration and has been living and working in Eastern and Southern Africa since 1996. Polly coordinated community development and environmental conservation projects for CARE in Tanzania for 4 years. And since that time, she's continued to work in health, education, and vulnerable children programming areas as an independent consultant. In 2007, Polly began the realization of her dream to create Nurturing Minds SEGA Girls School and was able to attain 23 acres of land in Tanzania. With the help of colleagues and friends, Polly was able to raise funds and provide technical expertise for the construction and development of the SEGA Girls School, which we'll talk about in detail today. So Polly, hello, welcome to BetterWorldians Radio. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thank you so much, Greg. It's nice to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here and talk about Nurturing Minds and SEGA. So I know, Polly, you've been working on poverty alleviation in Africa now for 20 years. What led you initially to this work?
I think there were two main driving forces. The first is I've really always had a passion for traveling, and I especially was always excited by being in parts of the world that are so-called developing countries. I found it really exciting and stimulating to be in places where life and the surroundings are very unpredictable and the culture and daily life is so different than what I'm used to, or I had been used to. And the second is, as a young adult, I think somewhere along the line I had identified a life purpose for myself, which was to help others reach their full potential, even though I was still trying to figure out how to reach my own full potential. That was something that I knew I wanted to do. And for me, that meant I had always envisioned that to mean social work, and I studied social work in college initially. But then, as a college student, my parents gave me a chance to study abroad for a semester, and right away I chose Kenya. And I went to Kenya, and I think just following my desire to be in a place like that at Africa, the thought excited me so much. And it was there that I learned that there was a whole field of work and a possible career path in international development. So I knew right away that that's what I wanted to do. So after that, I later went on to get my master's degree and at the School for International Training in Brattleboro, Vermont. And then that led to a fellowship at the University of Michigan, and they offered me a 2-year fellowship in Uganda. So in 1996, I went to Uganda supposedly for 2 years, but I've only just returned to live in the United States this past year. So I ended up, one thing led to another, I ended up staying there for 20 years.
Wow, that's an amazing 20-year journey. I love that insight, too, of sometimes, we find ourselves by helping other people find themselves. I think that's powerful. So I know that as you worked over these 20 years, it became clear to you that educating girls makes a significant impact on a lot of issues. Can you talk about that, how you realized that, and why that does make such a difference?
Yeah, I think just you can't work in a place like Tanzania without noticing the situation that girls and women are in, and also the very strong role that they have in keeping the fabric of their society together. But they're really undervalued for the most part, and very much subjected to the whims and needs of others for much of their lives. Many girls grow up not valuing themselves or realizing that they have the right to lead fulfilling lives in pursuit of their own dreams. So all through their childhood, they're told how to behave and what to do, and a good portion of their time is spent on household chores. Then as they reach puberty, they become subjected to a lot of sexual pressure, often with very little understanding or forewarning of what is happening. And too often, then, their childhood ends abruptly with an early pregnancy. So, I mean, around 40% of Tanzanian young women already give birth by the time they're 18, and a quarter of women are giving birth before age 17.
Wow.
And then thousands become pregnant while they're still in young adolescence, and then they drop out of school. So you have that backdrop. But as you said, it's important. Education is important. It has a huge role to play in helping girls understand their value and their rights and how to avoid early pregnancy and hopefully to lead more fulfilling lives.
Oh, that's incredible.
Then there are the
work.
ripple effects in their families and society that all of the global research has uncovered in recent years. It's become very well known, the impacts that educating girls has. For example, in Tanzania, the Demographic and Health Survey found that young women with no education are 10 times more likely to start bearing children as teenagers than those with secondary education.
No, it's amazing. I think, obviously, the work that you're doing to help these women is so powerful, and then you're also contributing to the society at large. And I think a part of that is not just what's happening there on the ground in Tanzania, but also, the awareness work. I think it's so important for people to hear these facts and understand why the work is so important and how it makes a difference, and therefore they can get that sense of wanting to contribute to these people's lives, Yeah,
and that was one of the things that I hadn't really thought about when we started the program was the exchange that would be going on between the U.S. and Tanzania. And that has turned out to be a really fulfilling part of the whole experience. We have visitors come over to the school every year. We get a local school who's been there 3 times. Philadelphia schools come 3 times. The girls over there get to exchange with the girls here. They learn about each other and just mutual understanding. It's incredible.
That's
the
amazing.
Value that people here get from going over there, whereas we tend to think of supporting the school there, which nothing would be on the ground if it weren't for the amazing outpouring of support that we've had. But on the other side of the coin, just the incredible cultural exchange value that people have gotten to.
No, I'm sure it's amazingly eye-opening and world-changing. I think anytime people experience in their culture, for sure it changes the way they think about things. But to have the experience that they would in Tanzania, it must be incredible to take that with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's what they tell us.
So how did you go about forming SEGA Girls School?
Well, I had already been working in Tanzania for about 12 years before starting. So I went to a Tanzanian colleague who I'd been working with for years, and we pretty much hatched the plan together. He introduced me to a very dynamic woman in Morogoro, and we formed a board and an organization there to make sure that whatever we did was grounded in local culture and local realities, because although I'd been there for a long time, I'm still not Tanzanian. And so that was instrumental, really. And at the same time, on this side, I went to my sister here in the U.S. and childhood friends, and we formed an organization to do the fundraising, and that is Nurturing Minds here in the U.S. And we've been very, very fortunate to receive the support we have from so many individuals and organizations, which has made building and running the school possible.
That's incredible. So what is the criteria for girls to enter the program? What are you looking for?
Well, to enter our program as a full scholarship student, of which 95% of the students in the school are there on full scholarship, she should be identified as vulnerable by her community. So vulnerable means orphaned or not living with her own family, very poor, or at risk of abuse or dropping out of school. She should also pass our entry exam, and we have home visits for every student to verify their vulnerability. The school's whole purpose is to provide quality education to girls who otherwise would not have the chance. So it's very important that the girls who are admitted with scholarships are actually in need, as well as having academic potential.
So what are some of the challenges facing these girls that people in the United States or elsewhere might not be aware of or know that they have to expect?
I'd say the biggest and most common challenge our students have faced before they come to SEGA is physical and sexual abuse. Although we're not actively selecting students who've been victims of sexual violence or other physical abuse, many have been subjected to it. We find out later in the course of counseling once they're at school. But just the very day-to-day struggles that the girls have to get to school are also very hard and would be more unusual probably for us here in the U.S., like walking miles to school, not getting food the whole day until school is finished, sitting with 100 other kids in a classroom, often on the floor, a classroom that doesn't have enough books, furniture, or even teachers. So those are the kind of primary schools that our students have been through before coming to SEGA at grade 7.
Wow. So what kind of programs does SEGA offer to help these girls?
We follow the national educational curriculum, which is mandated by law, by Tanzanian law, but we supplement it with a very in-depth life skills program. We call it Education for Life. We also have a learning by doing entrepreneurship program to learn business skills, and we provide English fluency, which helps the students tremendously because all national exams in Tanzania at higher level are in English. I think our life skills program is one of the most important things. Of course, they're all important. They have to get those academic qualifications, but in life skills is where we teach basic things like their rights and communication, thinking about their lives and what they want from it and how to have a goal and pursue it. So all of those things we do in our Education for Life program.
I know you also focus on female empowerment. Can you talk about that and why that's so important?
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned some of the hurdles that Tanzanian girls face, and without an awareness that their day-to-day struggles are not necessarily correct from a rights point of view, that girls have the same rights as others. Without that awareness, they will often never get the perspective on their life that they should be the ones in control of their lives and their bodies, for example. So we do start with helping the girl, first of all, understand herself, know all of the things that lead to pregnancy, unwanted interactions, all of those things. So we start with that, and then we teach them a rights framework where they can know what is allowed and not allowed under law, who they go to in their community if they're suffering from abuse or unwanted advances, and what to do about it.
We'll talk more with Polly Dolan, founder of Nurturing Minds in Africa, in a moment. But right now, I'd like to take a brief break and tell our listeners a bit about our game on Facebook called A Better World. A Better World encourages habits of goodness, positive mindsets, and giving to social causes to make a positive difference in the world. Players do things like express gratitude, share acts of kindness, send get-well notes to real-world sick children, and more. Each month, the Better World partners with a different nonprofit to help raise money and awareness for its cause. This month, we're happy to partner with Nurturing Minds. When our players complete 150,000 good deeds in the game this month, we'll release funds to provide quality education for over 200 vulnerable girls in Tanzania. You can find out more at betterworld.com. So now, let's get back to our conversation with Polly Dolan. So, Polly, you've talked a lot about the programs and the necessity, the need for it sort of on the ground there in Tanzania. What do you hope graduates come away with?
Well, our aim is for our graduates to have as many doors open as possible at the end of Form 4, which is the end of ordinary level secondary school, as they call it in Tanzania. So with a Form 4 certificate, they can go on to teaching or nursing degrees or pursue higher academic education or go on to vocational school if they want. And we are giving them business skills. So with those, we aim to equip them to be able to start their own businesses. There are many graduates, even of universities in Tanzania, that have trouble finding work. There's a lot of joblessness, unemployment, so many graduates will depend on their own small businesses. But at a minimum, the life skills that they're getting at SEGA will help them communicate better, make conscious decisions in their lives, stand up for themselves, help them negotiate with the opposite sex, and fend for themselves when they leave school.
I know there's a story on your website, speaking of that, about a girl who graduated from your program and then faced terrible pressure from a college professor. Can you share that story and how the skills that she learned at SEGA helped her?
Sure. Yes, it was at one of our alumni meetings a year or so ago, and I was there, and we were asking the girls about their experiences at college, because we also support our graduates to go on with scholarships to other programs once they leave SEGA, for programs they qualify for to help the next step out. Anyway, she talked about how one of her professors told her he was going to fail her unless she had sex with him. And she said, I looked him in the eye and I said, I have paid to be here. It's my right to be here, and you better leave me alone. And to hear this coming out of this girl's mouth was amazing, and I was really happy to hear that. And he left her alone. He did. That was all it took. She knew her rights. She expressed it with confidence, and she looked him in the eye. Yeah. And I said, how did you know to say that? And she said, from our life skills classes at SEGA.
Amazing. And good for her.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So I know SEGA Girls School also has an environmentally friendly campus, which I think is great. Why did you make that decision, and how does it work?
Well, we made that decision largely due to practicalities. We want our students to make their world a better place when they leave school, and to become conscious and aware of their role in helping or harming the environment. And also, we are off-grid. We're located just outside on the periphery of a fairly large town or small city, but the municipal water supply and electricity doesn't reach us, so we're off-grid. So it was natural from both of those perspectives to decide to run on solar. And we've got great sunshine, of course, being in East Africa, right below the equator. And we, thanks to in-kind donations of solar batteries and panels raised from here in the U.S., we are able to run 100% on solar electricity.
Wow.
And we have rainwater catchment on all of our buildings and a large underwater tank, which is a huge help, especially in the dry season.
Sure.
And we teach our students organic gardening. We raise their awareness about global issues, especially some that are very close to home, like elephant poaching. So we make sure they get to visit the national parks, see elephants in their habitat, and have connected them on phone calls and Skype sessions with activists, once an activist in China and another in the U.S., and they've written a letter to the Thai Prime Minister thanking her for her efforts. So there's been those kind of awareness raising to get them to think of their own role in society and how to take action.
Love that. That's excellent. Do you have a favorite success story of a particular girl or a few girls who have gone through your program you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite stories is about a girl named Laodikia.
Mm-hmm.
She was from our first graduating class, and when we recruited her to SEGA, she had dropped out of school before SEGA. She had been out of school due to early pregnancy. She'd been kicked out of her parents' home. I think she got pregnant around the age 15. She was kicked out of her parents' home, but luckily her grandparents had taken her in. She was pretty much an average student when we took her in terms of her entrance exam, but she worked really, really hard. She always studied. She was always at the top of her class while at SEGA. And when she graduated with her scores, she could have basically done anything. All the doors were open. She could have continued on to university or done anything she wanted because she studied sciences as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she chose to go to nursing school. She was drawn to that profession, and she was anxious to start working so she could take care of her daughter who was at home. She did a 3-year diploma, and she graduated top of her nursing program. And then a couple of months ago, I was in Morogoro, and I had to go visit someone in the regional hospital, and I ran into Laodikia in the hallway in her nurse's uniform. So she's now a fully qualified nurse.
Wow.
She has a government job, which means long-term stability. She's basically set for life. So I'm very, very happy for her.
That's wonderful. So can you tell our listeners at home how they can support Nurturing Minds?
Yes, there are many ways to help, but the best is by visiting our website and making a donation. You can sponsor a student, whereby you get to correspond with a student at school and follow her progress, or you can equally give an unrestricted donation. Our website is www.nurturingmindsinafrica.org, and there's all kinds of information.
Well, I have one last question. It's a question that we ask every week. In this case, how do you hope Nurturing Minds in Africa is helping to make the world a better place?
Well, we're helping girls get more freedom in their own lives by opening doors for them and equipping them with skills and qualifications. So that's the boiling it down in a nutshell. I think that's what we're doing.
You can learn more about Polly Dolan's work by going to nurturingmindsinafrica.org. Polly, thank you for joining us again today on BetterWorldians Radio.
Thank you so much.
BetterWorldians Radio is brought to you by BetterWorldians Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to make the world a better place by encouraging the very best in everyone. We believe it's as important to plant flowers as it is to pull weeds. We focus on positive thinking, positive values, and positive actions. In short, our vision is to bring out the better worldian in everybody so that we can all make it a better world. But we can't do this without your help. Donations support our BetterWorldians Radio podcast, as well as go toward developing new features like articles, videos, blogs, and more. Go to BetterWorldians.com to be a part of this important mission. And until next time, please, be a better worldian.